gentlemen, goths, gays, and days.
Welcome back to episode 2 of the Salem Supernatural Society. I am Kristen Harris.
I am Michaela Maisie.
Michaela, tell the people where we are.
We're at the fucking Isaac Morse house.
And we say the fucking Isaac Morse house
because what the fuck happened?
The Isaac Morse house was built in 1790. It is located in Winchendon, Mass, and it has stolen all of our sleep from last night.
Oh my gosh.
And
so truly.
Yeah.
I think I slept less than you did, which is like quite tragic because I was petrified. Like I was
I feel like I slept less than you because I kept waking up.
Oh, I did too.
Oh my God.
So, okay.
Let's go. Let's do this background.
Basically came here, bunch of friends, and staying 2 nights. We knew we were going to do this after the first night, but it's just, it exceeded our expectations. We are nervous for the second night, but we are excited about the second night.
Yeah. So you've been here before. So
yes.
I have never been here before. This is my first time at the Isaac Morse house. Truth be told, I've heard of a lot of haunted places in Massachusetts. I've never heard of the Isaac Morse house. I have never heard of it until Michaela told me about it. When you came here last time, let's start there. Like, what is it about the house that made you A, want to come back, which was a good decision, which we'll get into, and B, just talk about what your experience was here last time as a haunted location.
Okay. So I had heard about this place from a previous team that we were on. Never ended up coming. Shocker there. So my friend Sarah Bentley, love you to death. Shout out Bentley Paranormal.
Bentley Paranormal.
She invited me for her birthday. She was doing an overnight with a bunch of friends, and I was like, oh yeah, first of all, love you to death. I'm showing up, but also I'd never been here. It was quiet. Minus one recording that we didn't even realize we were doing. We just saw the light on in her bag and we were like, what the fuck? Realized I'd been recording for 10-15 minutes. Listened back 5 seconds in. There was a very deep, sinister voice. And we were just basically taken back. Holy shit. It was enough to have me shaking in my boots, I guess. But the kicker that really made me want to come back is sleeping in this room.
In the room that we are now in.
And that we slept in last night and we'll be sleeping in again tonight.
Sleep is a objective word.
We'll be resting.
Be rested.
In peace.
Maybe. Anyway, continue.
Not that there's a lot of peace happening here. But what happened that first time was very much so what happened last time, just different timing. We even thought last night at one point, maybe this is residual, but then the timing didn't match up. But basically, the first night that I was here, sleeping in this bed with Janelle, and footsteps outside of the door. Reading the history of the house in bed, the lamp over here just starts flickering on and off. Stop reading the history, it stops. Continue reading the history, is flickering. At one point in the night, at around 5 a.m., I hear a and I see the metal latch on the door lift up and down. The door opens. Fucking terrifying. There was another point in the night where there was somebody that went to the bathroom, and Sarah texted me and was like, girl, better be you. Wasn't us. So it was enough for me to lose sleep that night to the point where we slept with all the lights on plus the Minions on the TV. Super stoked to get back, thinking hopefully the same thing happens. Maybe it's a fluke. It's not a fucking fluke.
It's not a fucking fluke.
It's not a fluke. What happened last night, Kristen?
Ladies and gentlemen listening to this podcast, I just need you to know that even though I have been involved in the paranormal for a very long time, like Michaela, my vocation is a researcher, a historian. And while I do believe in the paranormal, I always approach these places just being open, but not expecting anything and just not putting my own personal shit on the house besides like looking into the history. What happened to us last night in this house I cannot explain, I will say. We were laying in bed, we're reading the history, we were looking into some history, which we're going to get into in a minute. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about the history that we've been digging up because we actually just spent like 3 hours at the almost 3 hours
There
or
are
an hour
more holes in this
at the
history
library.
than your great grandpa's sweater.
So we were laying in bed. It was about what, 3 a.m. by this time?
Well, I would say it was about 2:30 that we were in
2:30.
bed when we were hearing all the creaking and the walking downstairs
Right.
to the point where we thought that there was somebody downstairs. We knew that none of us were down there, but Kristen at one point we had to call our friend Ryan to go
Go
check to make
check.
sure nobody was here. But Kristen, tell me about the best part.
Oh my God. Okay. She's
Tell
making
me about the
she's
best part.
making me do it because I got scared.
I'd already been through this, so like
So
clock strikes 3 a.m. The
hold on,
witching
hold on.
hour.
I will rewind just briefly to say with the footsteps that we were hearing. Okay, there are radiators all throughout this house. There's literally one, you can see it right here, right behind me. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it right behind me. And they make weird noises, right? But you get to know pretty quickly when you're in the house what's a
Sure.
radiator noise, what's not, everything else. So as we were laying here listening to these noises, both Michaela and I were saying, okay, that was a radiator. Okay, that was not a radiator. What the fuck was that? That was a radiator. That was the house settling. And we're literally like, walking each other through it.
But
When I
also for our own sakes that we want to sleep.
Right. So we're trying not to like get all hyped up and just really listening and tuning into the house. When I tell you it sounded like a grown man pacing downstairs, there is no other explanation I can tell you. Unfortunately, this happened when our cameras were off. Recording devices were off. We were getting ready to go to bed. We will not be making that mistake tonight, I can assure you,
But
for
that's what
part two.
happens in this house. The moment that everybody comes together, the moment everybody starts talking,
And that
that's
happened
when
earlier
things
too.
pop off, is when we're not paying attention. When we can't hear what's happening because we're too busy talking to each other. We're
Correct.
in bed, everything's put away,
And
and they
so
know.
we're hearing the footsteps. And I forget what you said right
Oh,
before this happened. Oh,
so
we
we
were
were
doing
looking into the
research. Yeah.
history and we were talking. I had mentioned, so what happened to the mother's helper that was here in 1940 for Dr. Skelton and
Yeah.
his family? And immediately I was like, but what about the maid?
And as she said this, we hear, I can actually do it behind me on the door. We just hear a smack on the door. And I mean, it was a loud smack. It was
It
like,
was a bang,
I
like
felt
somebody
it.
had like ran into the door. The
I
wild
felt
thing
it
though is the latch, the bit that the metal part goes down to latch into on this door is no longer there. So if somebody or something would have hit the door as hard as it sounded, like the door would have flung open.
from the outside. From the
So
outside, it would
somebody
have flung
today
open.
was like, that's why they were inside. And they got in front of the door
Correct.
so you don't go out there.
And that is, yeah. So our friend Ryan actually said, so it was from the inside because if you hit this door from the outside, it's going to open. Because when he came
Yeah.
to, and then we kept hearing more footsteps. It sort of kept
We were
amping
hearing
up. We were
whispers at
hearing
one point, but
whispers.
it makes you think,
Yeah.
is it something trying to keep us from going out there to see what's out there, or is it something we're really just trying to keep us in here confined?
And we don't know yet. And that's why we have been driving me personally. Hi everyone. I have anxiety. I had a panic attack today. Thank you. So
Hi, I'm Michaela. I also have anxiety. I'm not a history person, but I tried to be one today.
you were very good. Actually, you're a hell of a
It was
researcher.
stressful.
It is fucking
It
stressful,
was
dude.
very stressful.
But so we decided to dig in more today. We found out there was a library. We had a wonderful librarian named Alexis, who's a local historian who was helping
Shout out
us.
Alexis
Shout out to Alexis.
at the Winchendon
God,
Library.
because we were just absolutely boggled at this history and we were trying to fill in the gaps and things were weird. There have been some weird things that people at the Historical Society have said about the house where it's like, we were like, oh, these
It's
are,
just not elaborated
it's
well.
not,
Like we have so many questions
yeah,
and there doesn't seem to be
concrete answers,
concrete
dates for some of the
answers.
things that have apparently occurred in the house according to locals and according to the Winchendon, some people at the Winchendon Historical Society.
As well as, like,
Yeah.
all online. Also, shout out Wichita Historical Society. Thanks for
Yes.
letting us stay here. We can't wait to go to Murdoch Whitney tonight.
We are. We're going across the street tonight.
Yeah.
So that being said, I guess let's try and get into this history a little bit. And we're not going to go too down the rabbit hole because we are still A, looking things up, and B, there's just so much more. And we don't want to get super into it until we gather all of our evidence and share that in part 2 of this
So I
episode.
think it's the Isaac Morse house. This house was built for Mr. Isaac Morse. He was such a rich, big person. We should leave his family out of this little segment for a second.
Right. So all I'll tell you about him is that he and 2 others were the 3 like biggest businessmen in the town of Winchendon. And so he built this house in 1790. Or no, 1790s, I'll say, because I'm not sure of the exact year off the top of my head. But built the house, by a man named Ruggles built it for him. Family moved in. He owned he owned multiple tanneries. He helped open, or somebody in his family helped open the first hotel in Winchendon. So this is a very prolific family. Let's just say that. The Murdochs and Whitneys are also sort of intertwined in that, and I'll get into that a little bit next time.
But
But
let's start with the
yeah,
Holts.
let's talk
What's
about the
the
Holts.
family with the
Oh,
secrets, or what's the family with?
traumatic history that just may not be divulged, I think, too. Like, I don't want to say one way or another yet, just because
We don't know.
we don't know.
We
And
don't
there
know.
are members of the family that are still alive that lived in this
Yeah.
house later. So, I want to try and
Be
tell the
as
history
respectful and
accurately.
be as respectful as possible
Right.
for just the sake of the family members that have passed and the ones living.
Right. So I think so.
Just bullet point
Bullet point. Let's
a
bullet point it.
couple of holes.
So
Or things, not even holes, just things that don't have any paper concrete explanation.
yeah.
There was
So
a hanging here.
apparently, allegedly, we have been
Yes.
digging into the history to try and figure out what time period that might be in, because they don't know
They just know
what time period it might have
word of
been.
mouth. There was a hanging here. Don't know if it was man or woman. Though he did say yesterday, John, shout out John, thank you.
Thanks, Don.
That he thought it was a man. Doesn't know if it was in the attic or the basement, which I get it. It's a game of telephone over the years,
Right.
especially with the talks of the town and everything. But who was hung here? Did they do it themselves? Did they have it done to them? Why did it happen?
There's not a lot of detail.
There's no detail. That's it.
That's it.
There's
That's
no
literally all we
detail.
know, is that somebody was apparently hanged or hung themselves
Yes.
in either the attic or the basement of the house. So let's into the family with the holes in it then, because I think the hanging we're gonna table for now until we can get more info, right? Dr.
Skelton.
Alton Beecher Skelton. So after the Morse family owned this house, it passed to, can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it was a bookkeeper for the Murdoch Whitney people,
We're going really
the
into the
Murdochs.
history this time.
What?
So we're diving right into the history this time.
Yeah. So that bookkeeper owned it for a while. After that, at some point, a man named Alton B. Skelton, who is a doctor, buys the
Yes.
house in 1950. Or no,
Did he buy it directly? Was there
50.
another owner?
1959. Nope. Yes.
Okay,
No.
so at some point, he bought it directly from the bookkeeper.
I'm not sure.
Okay,
Still trying to
so
find that.
originally, Isaac Morse, at some point, the Murdoch Whitneys people, their bookkeeper owned this house. And then another point, a Dr. Skelton bought this house with his first wife,
Mildred.
Mildred.
Stevens. So yeah, I think he came to Winchendon in 1951, and I think he purchased the house about 1953 is what
1939.
1930 is when he purchased the house.
Yes.
I was wrong.
By
And this is what we mean by this little like confusion train that you just witnessed, everyone. This is what we have been doing for 2 days
on
so
notes
far.
and I have a terrible memory and I'm not a history person, so I have notes.
Notes are good. Notes are very good. So today when we went to the library, we basically said, okay, we're trying to make sense of these dates. We're trying to make sense of the other things that we were told about the house and things that occurred in the house. We're just trying to put some pieces together.
And after we say a bit of this history with the dates and everything, I do want to get into other experiences that we had last night.
But this is relevant.
That it is.
Yeah.
This is relevant to say first, but stay tuned for that right after the history part because there are dots that do connect.
Correct. All right. Do you want to start?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Dr. Skelton moved here, purchased the house in 1939 with his first wife, Mildred A. Stevens. They had two kids together, Frederick and John B. Frederick is alive and well. John B, we don't know. We haven't gotten his,
I would say yeah, we don't know, but I would say it's probable because
but
he was born after Frederick.
also don't know because as we see on his second wife's side, people
So
don't always live
so he's
the
married.
longest. As that.
Did you hear that? I didn't hear anyone come up the stairs, so. And this is exactly what happened
Wait,
last night, everyone. Oh, the whirring is the computer, but
no,
the
but the
tapping.
creek.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to figure it
Okay.
out.
Hopefully you guys heard that. Okay, so he had two kids with first wife Mildred. Okay. Mildred,
Dies in 1974.
yes. But I do want to say in 1940, there was also
Oh, yes.
a mother's helper maid nanny that lived here. There's not a whole lot on her, but luckily she was alive and well, got married. We don't know how long she was here. She was here 1940, but it's very, very
Yeah.
vague. Even there's nothing saying she lived here at all in any of like the documentation other than on Ancestry. And it had everything like how much she made and whatever working for this family.
She was listed on the 1940 census as a member of the household, as a maid and mother's helper. So she was most likely, what Alexis told us is that means she was most likely sort of a live-in nanny, and like maybe she went home at night, maybe she didn't, but she probably was
Yeah.
sort of a live-in nanny.
Okay, so then homegirl Mildred, she crooks in this house, most likely.
Most likely. She passed away in October of 1974.
1974. And then 2 years later, he marries second wife, Evangeline. So Dr. Skelton worked at a hospital here
Correct.
where his second wife, Evangeline Morrow, was a nurse at the time at the same hospital.
So they probably met each other or knew each other from the hospital, which like makes sense, right?
Doctors and
your
nurses, they have to work together.
your spouse passes away, you meet somebody else, it's somebody at work, so that's perfectly normal.
But as they get married 2 years later, Evangeline comes with 5 children. So Dr. Skelton now has 2 children of his own, plus 5 stepchildren.
Right.
So we don't know a whole lot on Philip Kirk Morrow, William Mark Morrow, Kent Groves Morrow, but we do know his stepson, Alan, died in the house at the age of 32. It is said that he
Died by suicide.
died by suicide with a shotgun to the head in the bedroom that this door leads to. So we did find his obituary. We don't need to go into that.
No, we won't.
Privacy stuff.
Yeah.
The only thing that I will say is that it must have brought some kind of feelings to the family to where none of this was publicized in 1994.
Which I will say, and this is what Alexa, because to us, right? Alexis, this is what she said to us, is that, and it makes sense, right? Because we think, oh, it's 1994, like why wouldn't that be? I mean, but that is common, that it was still very stigmatized. If it was a big tragic event like that for the family, they don't want
Especially
that anywhere.
in a small town,
It's a
in a
small
wealthier
town.
family.
And she did say to us, and this was really interesting to me, she said, before the 90s, and she was very clear about this. She said it multiple times, and she's someone who's lived in this town for a long time, so she knows the history. She said Winchendon was very classist. It was very
Sexist,
separated.
all kinds of
It was not as
that.
progressive as it is now. And she
Mhm.
said it really only became as progressive as it is in like 2015 was
2015.
her opinion. So,
I mean, shout out Wichenden for getting there,
yeah,
but it makes sense why it was so hush hush. But with there being no concrete, we don't know if he's here. We have gotten a lot of, I got an EVP the last time I was here that sounded like it said something about Alan.
mm,
On the spirit box last night, it said Alan a couple times, said
it
Alan
did.
did it. It said a bunch of stuff, but we don't know. Our goal tonight is to figure out who is here because it seems over a couple hundred years, quite a few people have passed away here.
Correct.
There are bits and pieces from other houses here. There
There's a lot of artifacts in this house, and we did a live yesterday, but anybody who's listening to this podcast and anybody that, wants us to, I could do another live walkthrough later just to show you some of these things. And we'll post some pictures on social media. I can do like a little slideshow of some of the things that we're talking about. So there are a lot of artifacts and things in the house that are from other places.
I just want to say I've not seen a slideshow
But
in
like, I mean, just put like a
50,000 years.
little, just a
Just like
series of 10.
I was
Yeah.
just like, it's just gonna be this, like, with
That's it.
this sweet music, this vacation
I mean, I can
slideshow.
put music with it, so I can take some requests, but
Or we can skip that one.
but
We're progressive here, Kristen.
yeah.
Slideshows and PowerPoints are out.
Ugh, how I
Get
wish.
the overhead projector out.
Uh-huh, how I
Like
wish that
Troy.
were true. But anyway, so we looked into the family because we were getting all this information, we were getting all this evidence last night.
Mhm.
We had a really, really intense essays method session. For those of you who aren't familiar with the essays method and what it actually is, do you want to explain that for people listening that don't really know what that is? Do it. Do it. Methodology time with Michaela. What is an
Okay.
essays method?
Sorry, I was like raising my eyebrows at myself. Uh, it's my little razzle dazzle. So the Estes method is basically there's a thing called Spirit Box, and it sweeps through different radio frequencies fast enough to basically create a white noise, but it creates an open channel for spirits to come through and speak through. So what we do is you hook up noise canceling headphones to the Spirit Box. So somebody sits with the headphones on, somewhat away from the other people without it, and the other folks around ask questions. A lot of the times it's used with blindfolds and stuff to really block out your senses other than just what you're hearing. And you guys would ask questions,
And yeah,
and the person under, the Estes method, they have no clue what's being said by the other people.
your eyes are covered as well, so you can't read lips or see them.
Yes.
Like,
And you just say whatever is being said to you through the headphones.
and so the idea is that because you're in this sort of sensory deprivation state, you're only getting what's in your headphones. You cannot hear the question. So it's thought that it's a more authentic way of using a spirit box.
It
Because,
is.
yeah, and I agree. I think it really is because I've been in spirit box sessions with people where everyone's just shouting out whatever they think the spirit box says. And then you know how group things work,
But you
right?
can also tell too
You'll start to
what
inform
is
each other.
radio and what is an actual voice coming through.
Right.
You can tell the difference. And I think that that's where some people get hung up is they just say everything that's coming
Everything.
through.
Yeah.
You will notice the difference
Yeah.
in the
It's the
two.
tone. The tone is different.
But also it just doesn't sound like radio voice.
And it also will sweep. The idea is that if you have a word that sweeps over several sweeps, that's technically not supposed to be possible. Like one
Right.
sentence
Because
over
it
sweeps
goes
very fast,
like
like 100
through the
millisecond
different.
sweeps. Yeah.
Yeah, and so sentences and one steady voice saying word, multiple words, full on sentences, That's not a natural occurrence.
To
It's a
quote,
supernatural occurrence.
that's what you said last night.
Oh yeah, it's
We were
not
trying to
natural,
find
it's
that joke.
supernatural.
So we had a rather intense method. We had a lot of like very pointed, very clear things come through. But
Starting to realize how lame I might actually be.
it's- I mean,
It's fine.
I think
It's
you're
fine.
great.
It's fine.
And I'm also lame.
It's
So
fine. Yeah.
yeah,
Anyways,
no.
go ahead.
Lame people are cool. Okay. But anyway, let's
Tell that to my bullies in 6th grade.
I mean same. But anyway, so the point of episode 1 is just sort of set the stage for what we've explored this house so far. Why this
And
history is relevant. During the essay session, we had a lot about Alan.
and
And
what we're gonna be doing different tonight, so we can
yeah.
hopefully, where things start popping off, be able to share that with you guys. But also to relive it ourselves, because when I tell you when it all happened, it is almost like, holy shit, did that really happen? And then you think there's no way it didn't happen. Like it's just also we left out that we turned the REM pod on. REM pod
Oh, we
is
did, yeah.
a device that you turn on and it has an antenna. And if anything comes within like a certain radius of the antenna, it lights up. The electromagnetic field around it lights up. It's able to make all these sounds to let you know something's close to it. After that big bump at the door, we put the REM pod up. It went off multiple
It
times.
sure did.
So something was standing there
Something was standing
right
there.
next to me,
Yeah,
watching me sleep
maybe
or lack of sleep, watching me awake.
watching us awake
Fearful,
and terrified.
fearful.
And like, look, guys, when you
And then it's just there like
yeah.
peasant.
And like, look, everyone, you come to a haunted location, right? You know what you're getting yourself into. You know that ultimately, and do not come for me on this. Ultimately, you're most likely going to be okay when you leave a haunted location. I'm going to say that very loudly and
Knock on
very
wood.
clearly.
Knock on wood.
Like,
Don't hurt us.
yeah, do not. But I
I don't think
ultimately
there's anything
believe
aggressive
no,
here.
there's nothing aggressive here. And in most places, in my opinion, there really isn't in most places.
Oh, I agree.
And so, the terrifiedness of us was just from the fact that it seemed to be so intelligent and intentional. And I think that's what got me about
It
it
was so
personally, is
abrupt.
that it was abrupt. It seemed like it waited until whatever or whoever is here wanted to communicate.
But I do
And it
also
seemed
think it's the
intentional.
contrast of the two. We had been hearing something downstairs, on the stairs, right outside of the door, all of this. We had been hearing something. So to hear something on the other side of it, almost like there's a combativeness or a difference in the
In the
two
two, there were two things
themselves,
happening. It seemed like there were two things
but they
happening.
were like correlating at the same time. Like
It
this one
seemed
was trying
intelligent.
to walk up, this one was trying to keep it out, or trying to keep us away from it, or who knows?
It
But
seemed intelligent to me. It did. Like,
both of them seemed
yeah,
intelligent.
it seemed because our friend Ryan, who we called at 3 a.m. Sorry, Ryan. And had him go check the house just in case like
Yeah.
we were driving ourselves crazy and somebody broke in, because that is how clear those footsteps were. I mean, I thought somebody broke into the house.
Which is a concern, not only just for our safety, but the whole first floor is a
A
antique
museum.
a toy museum. This
Yeah.
is the home of the first rocking horse. Like
So some
there's
pretty valuable stuff like in the house. So like
well, it's
that
not
was
even
my
that, just
thought.
like cool objects that obviously people they have what this town is about.
Yeah, that's true. It's town history. It's really cool. But what you said gets me too, because what he suggested, which was a good suggestion, is that it could be residual, and that's why he asked what time it happened to you last time.
Which we went back in my text with Sarah, and
Yes.
the time of the door here was exactly 3 a.m. 3:01.
Yeah, when we checked the time, it
It
was
was
3:05,
3:04.
3:04, 3:05, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it had been a couple minutes since it happened, and when I looked back, it was like 5:44 in the morning that it happened before with the latch.
So it was
So
not synced.
it's not residual, that it's like kind of residual haunting is almost like a VHS tape just playing on a loop.
On a loop.
It's the same thing every single day at the same time, the same path. they're just on that and there's no way for them to get out of it. There's no intelligence. It's almost like
It's like it's
I don't want to
I
say
call
like
it
a vegetable
an imprint,
spirit,
like an
but it's
imprint on a
exactly it's
place.
residual energy here that's making the same noises or whatever. But an intelligent haunting is a spirit, it's energy that makes its own decisions.
That makes its own decisions, that is aware of your presence, I think is very important because a residual haunting is not
But
aware
it's
of your
also
presence.
aware of their presence
Yeah.
because the same with residual, they don't know that they're here.
No. And they might not know that you're here.
They will not know that
Yeah,
you're
they
here.
don't know. There's like weird back and
Yeah.
forth on that, but I
But
think
we'll
they
get
don't
into
know
that in
you're.
another
Yeah.
episode.
But also what was interesting to me and why I think this was intelligent
Mm.
is it was different. So it was the same, it was what you had said to me before, which is
With
really
something
intriguing.
coming in.
Well, what you had said to me before, which is really intriguing, is that you think that it waits until people settle down, which it did that
Yes.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
So it followed that
And I had told
pattern.
you that before we came here.
You did.
Yeah.
And so it did that, that repeated. However, the experience was different. The time was different. And like there is something to be said for that, that it's not residual, but it seems to have a preference
And
for
it's
communication.
consistent.
It's consistent. Now we know that. And it seems to be isolated to one area because none of our other friends, they were all deeply sleeping.
So Dave did say he heard this door. So there's
That
this
was
weird
this morning, I think he
this
said. Or
cubby in
was
the
it
middle of
last
the
night?
night. He said there's a
Night.
little cubby. So this is the door that closes off our room. This is the door that opens up Anthony and Lyren's room.
Yeah.
That's Alan's room where he um passed. Dave heard this door in the middle of the night open and close. Luckily, this one didn't because I would have pooped all over the bed.
Yeah, after everything that was happening. So Dave did hear some things, but like Leanne and Anthony,
They didn't hear it.
they didn't hear it. We were in the room right next to us. Um,
Ryan was across the hall.
and like
Didn't hear anything.
you can hear stuff from room to room because when we were all sitting before, we were in separate rooms. Remember, Leanne was in there,
Yep.
we were in here, or Sarah was in here, we were in
Mhm.
there, and she was hearing things that were happening in different rooms. So
Yes.
you can hear things across rooms, yet none of our friends in that room heard it. Our friend across the hall didn't hear it. And that door bang, I am effing shocked that that did not wake anyone up. Like when I tell you,
I jumped
it is
out
astonishing to
of
me.
my body. I'm pretty sure I was laying horizontal in bed. My body was like, meet, right over to Kristen. I was like,
Like
there's something over there.
I haven't
It was
seen
shocking.
it was and I think because like I've seen some shit. Like we've seen some shit. We've
And
been to
so the
some
difference
places.
too
Like
is I had prepared myself for what this room has in store because I had been through it before. But before, when the latch opened, the door didn't fling open.
no.
It just, like that's what it was. This time was like a startling,
It was loud.
loud,
It was
I
loud.
am here
And I could feel the door. Like you know
presence.
how anyone who hears who's like seen a knock or seen somebody knocking on a door or banging on a door or even one bang, you can sort of like feel that reverberation because you can feel the physical impact like around
Especially
you.
with the old headboard being up against the wall, that
I
2
felt
feet
it.
away from the door, the wooden floors, you can definitely feel it from one side to the other. But
And if it was that forceful and no one else heard it, like that's fascinating to
how
me
do you
because it's
explain that?
impossible. It
Not
to
only
me,
how do you explain that, why?
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 Yeah.
Was it who?
Who? We still
Who
haven't found out who.
and why? And again, with everything happening downstairs, and we got on during the Estes method when you were under, he's walking, something wanted protection. There was a
I
bunch of
thought,
them
yeah,
that
yeah.
wanted protection, which we will the next episode when we go over all the evidence, we will share these recordings with you after we go through everything. But had said that there was a man walking, Alan did it, protect us, stay. And then when I was under, there was a woman that was like, I don't remember the exact verbiage of this, but you'll hear when we stitch the recording the next episode. But it was like a don't you leave.
Yeah, you said that like really like stern, like
It
parent. You
was,
said it was
and
like a parent vibe almost.
it was like a "you're not leaving" kind of thing, like, you sit right there, and it was a woman that
Mhm.
came through, and again, that makes me wonder, I'm like, everything settled down, and I kept saying to Kristen with all the noises downstairs, because 'cause I'm a little bitch,
I mean,
I was like, "Kristen, open the door.
she was gonna make
Kristen,
me open the door.
open the door. Kristen, what do you think about opening the door? Kristen, should we open the door? Kristen, do you wanna go downstairs? Kristen, open the door." And then something was like, "You're not leaving."
Yeah, because you were telling me to open the door when we got it. You were talking about Anna or Anne, sorry.
And
Talking about Anne, the maid, and then
but I had been like for the 15 minutes before that, I'd been telling you.
I
Every time
know.
something was happening, I'm like, "Kristen, somebody's down there. Somebody's down there.
Yeah.
Kristen, open the door."
Sh I'm
I'm
gonna
not
be
opening the door.
I'm
I'm
gonna
I'm smarter than that.
I will volunteer as tribute tonight to open the door if it happens again.
But we'll have our cameras this time.
We will.
Just open the door like iPhone.
I was a scared baby last night and
It
I
was
did not do
scary.
it. But I will do it this time. But no, what I was
Could you
going to
imagine if we have
say,
the balls though, and we finally opened the door and we got our phones out and there's like something scary there.
I
You
mean,
know how my brain
that's the
works.
dream though, right? Like, isn't that the
Mm,
goal is to actually like see something, catch evidence? Like,
yeah, unless it like
we're gonna get scared.
unless it have you seen the Deborah Logan movie?
Girl,
It's
yeah.
you
Yes,
guys,
I
that's
have.
not real life, but my brain
I know
that's
your
the hard
brain,
part about being a
yeah.
paranormal investigator,
Your
it's like,
brain makes up.
I'm good in the situations, but then my brain's like, "Horror movies are real," even though I know that they're not, and I'm like, "There
Correct.
will be a snake lady that just unhinges her jaw and just takes my head." It's
Yeah.
not gonna happen. But
And you know that as a paranormal investigator,
yes, because
but
that's
you're
not real, but my brain is like, "But what if?"
but the horrors persist, as we like to say.
But the horrors persist, and so do we.
But no, I was gonna say with the essays method, what's interesting to me about the essays method, I've only been under a couple of times. I'm usually the person answering the questions
Mhm.
or asking the questions. And so when I was answering the questions, at one point I literally took my headphones off and I looked at you, I was like, I don't think I'm and you were like, put the headphones back
Yeah,
on.
because every single thing, it was like a solid 10, 15 minutes where every question we asked, we were getting an intelligent response. And it was very fitting for the house. And she couldn't hear a single thing that we were saying.
Couldn't hear a thing. I heard like
She was laying on the floor on the opposite side of the room. Like
we were in the same room, so I could hear talking, but it was more like a like Charlie Brown.
yeah.
Like I could not hear words. I could just hear
So that is the gist of night one. Night two. So we're gonna dive more into some history on a couple of things. But we are going to look up a bunch of stuff about the Murdoch Whitney house, the Murdoch Whitney mansion, I should say, across the
yeah.
street. We will be there
Be there for 3 hours tonight.
this
So
evening.
yeah, we are gonna go there.
We are hoping to get a bunch of evidence there too. There could be spirits that cross between one to the other.
I'm
There could
wondering
be
about that
all new
honestly.
ones. I mean,
Because there were connections with the two houses, like with families, with
but also they're right
employees,
across the
like
street, and the amount of energy and the amount
yeah.
of investigators coming in here that are stirring things up
Well,
or
and they go to
interacting
both often. So I wonder if
in
people are
the
bringing
same night,
things back and forth.
bringing their own things, like
Yeah.
everything. So we're gonna be doing that tonight for 3 hours. And then we will be back here again. We will be smarter this time and we wanted last night to be more of like an authentic, like, oh, well, we're like here and we live here kind of thing. Tonight's gonna be, we're gonna have cameras set up.
Yeah,
We will have a video recording in our room the entire night. There will be something downstairs or outside of the door or both at all times during the night. There will be equipment set up all night. with cameras on them, there we will catch. If it happens again tonight, we're gonna get it.
And, I kinda like, like I said, I've never been here. I will say as someone who and I'm sure Michaela will say the same thing, as someone who's been a lot of different paranormal places, as someone who's experienced like I mean, I've been to Gettysburg, I've been to Penhurst, I've been to some pretty intense places where there is a lot of activity. This even though we didn't get like a ton, like, it wasn't like fuck Gettysburg,
Quality over
quality
quantity.
over quantity. Like
It's one
the
of the most
things that were
active
happening,
places I've been to.
it's active in a way that is almost so intelligent that it fascinates me even more. And like I
Yeah.
can say that with my whole chest after having been here one night. Um this house has so much complexity to it. There's so much history. As you said,
Mhm.
there I'm wondering like are there different spirits here? Do they have beef? Like is that what that was? Like does she not like whoever else
Is
is
there any
here?
is there
Like
fear? Like, what is the deal? I
what
think
is it?
my thing too is because of how incredibly intelligent and selective it is due to people, due to place, due to time.
Yeah,
I
it's
am
selective.
mostly excited and eager and determined
Same.
to capture because I g this kind of stuff has happened to my friends that have been here. This has happened to me twice now. This has happened to her once now.
Yeah.
But the people we are here with, I want them to experience
I
this.
do, I
I want
want them to
all of
see it.
you to see what's happening. I don't want it to just be a, "Oh, yeah, they said it was wildly active and, like, we didn't get anything." Like, no. Everybody needs to experience the "what the fuck" wow factor because
Yeah.
there's no explanation and you try to rationalize it in your head and you just get to a point
We are like, "No, fuck
where
that.
you're just like,
That happened."
"Did you hear something?"
Oh, that was me, I hit the chair.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Sorry. Tag me hitting the chair.
we do that too. We like to debunk things immediately. Anytime somebody makes a noise, stomach grumbles, there's noise outside, we mark it every single time so we don't think it's evidence.
Right. And that's important too, because like, sometimes you don't realize you're whispering at each other, and then later on you listen back, you're like, "Oh my god, there's somebody talking. It's
Yeah.
me."
So even if you can tell, like even last night in bed, Kristen was whispering and then her voice got louder and I still said Kristen was whispering.
Right. So I think to like kind of wrap this up, this
Sorry about our
part 1.
rambles. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, here's the thing. This is why we chose intentionally to do it this way though, because I think we came into this very intentional. You had experience here. You knew what you wanted to capture. We're
I
all
knew that
following
there was going
you,
to be
you know.
enough for this, and that's why I wanted us to have this authentic kind of episode because it does deserve this house does deserve
A two-parter, it
it
does.
does, but it deserves everything. It deserves all the visits. It did the historical society here that, runs this. They deserve everything coming to them positively because this house
It's
is
beautiful, first
truly
of all.
remarkable. It's incredible.
It's an Airbnb, so like you can stay even if you don't want to investigate, you can stay here and
Isaac
just
Morse House,
Isaac Morse
Winchendon,
house.
Massachusetts.
And I highly encourage it because A, the beds are comfy. B, Don and everybody who runs the house are great. They will tell you anything you want to know.
But be respectful. If you
Be
come
respectful.
here and you aren't a seasoned investigator, be very respectful, please.
Yeah, I think
Obviously,
that's wise.
investigate, experience what you want, but also ask Dawn questions. Ask, other investigators and whatever how to go about it. Don't be disrespectful. Don't invite negative things here.
I feel like it would feed off of it if you did. If you bring
Disclaimer, and if that's
negativity.
what you're looking for, ignore that part.
Yeah. But
Because some people might be like, "Oh, I wanna conjure up some negativity."
no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like don't be a dick like to the house.
Truly, truly,
Like
and just also know that,
don't do it is what I'm saying.
whoever is here, there could be a spirit here that's still grieving. There could be a spirit here
Yes.
that is still dealing with traumatic things. They're this is their home too, and you are in their house. So, remember that you are a guest.
Mhm. And I think like, I'm going to wrap it up by saying, this is why we did this very nonchalant episode because I think we came in here very intentional saying night one, we're going to see what happens. We're going to go into it. We're going to do our thing. We're going to just let it happen.
And night two,
And night two,
we're gonna get nothing.
we're going to make a, no, don't say, yeah. But no, night two, now that we know, okay, this is where this happened. This is
Yeah.
kind of what time these things happen. We can go into it way more intentional because you said, and you're correct, that one night here isn't enough.
It's not.
You need to
If
be,
you can
yeah,
if you can get it for multiple nights, please do. If you wanna I mean, if you wanna experience the wow factor, one night's good, but if you want to really understand and figure out, or not even figure out, but if you want to know more, come back or get multiple nights.
right. So tonight we got a plan. We are going into this excited. We're going into this hoping that our friends, the rest of our sort of chosen team members, can experience what we experienced.
We will have a lot more evidence, hopefully.
Yeah.
We will have a second location with evidence, hopefully.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping for an even crazier night
I am
than
too.
last night. I am ready for it. We have seen the extent how it has stepped up from last time. And
Yeah.
in a harmless way, I hope it gets a little bit more rowdy
I'm hoping that
tonight.
maybe it gets a little more comfortable with us and maybe that will spurn some more communication. Like maybe now that we've been here a night, they'll be
You
more
don't want us to
comfortable.
leave the room? I'm leaving the room. What you gonna do?
Yeah.
Well,
But
thank you
yeah.
for listening. We will be live a couple of times. We'll be posting, and stay tuned for episode 2 of the Isaac Morse House. It'll be episode 3 for us, but episode 2 of the
Yeah.
Isaac Morse House.
So stay tuned for part 2. We're going to be at the Murdoch Whitney Mansion tonight. We might go live later on, so keep an eye on our social medias as this episode will drop before we get over there. Of course, if you guys have any questions, if you have any things that you want to see in the house now that we've discussed stuff, comment on our stuff, comment on YouTube,
Message us on
message us on
Instagram,
Instagram.
Facebook.
Let us know things you want to see. Let us know places in the houses you want to see, and we'll try and go live and answer questions. And
Also, you can feel free to send us an invite on our live to go live with us if you want to virtually investigate with us and ask your own questions. Feel free.
yeah. All right. Well, as always, it's been Kristen and Michaela. Thanks for listening into the Salem Supernatural Society, and we will see you for part 2.
See you later, alligator.